Okay, I think we should start. I was kicked out myself. I don't know why, but I'm here again. So welcome, everyone. Very welcome at the first of a series of 3 of lunch fora, part of the Next Generation Podium. And today we will be focusing on the circular economy, on circular delta, and the quest of accelerating the circular transition that we will need. The subject is hosted by the municipality of Amsterdam, and we will be hosting a range of very nice speakers. My name is Paul Gerrits. I'm a director of the Delta Metropolis Association. We are part of already for quite some time of movement, you could say, to put more emphasis and more focus on the Eurodelta mega region scale. And this afternoon, or at least the coming 1.5 hours, we will be focusing on the subject of circular delta. I will. Yeah. Paul is getting through it. Maybe can we? Yeah. So we will first set the stage with together with Erik Pasveer, who's from the city of Amsterdam. Then we will have 3 speakers speaking from different perspectives to the to this acceleration of the circular transition. One more or less looking a little bit from the perspective of design, then from the construction company's perspective of building something, and one maybe a little bit more from the research or experience, research by experience, you could say. After that, we will have time for a conversation between all of us, all of you, perhaps. We are quite a lot of people have enlisted for this series of 3 lunch fora. In total 150, so that's very nice, and I think it's very good that you're all here. By the way, the session is being live streamed. I think you already saw that on your screen, and it's also being recorded so that it can be used later on in the whole process of the Next Generation Podium, which I will be saying something about later. So deal with your camera appropriately if you don't want to be recorded, but that's the warning. Use the chat box, please, if you want to raise a question or topic. Shalaja will be having an eye on that, as will I, and use your virtual hand if you want to be included in the conversation. Then maybe it's good to start off with a couple of slides, just to introduce a little bit the whole concept of the Next Generation Podium. So I'll share my screen for a couple of minutes. Yes, this week marks the beginning of the 3rd edition already of the Next Generation Podium for Eurodelta. It is, as I think I already said, an initiative of the SURE network, the network of cities and regions that are cooperating together with a host of other people to highlight the importance of the Eurodelta cooperation and how to look forward in that sense. So as I said already, we will have 3 lunch forums this week. First today, tomorrow, and then on Wednesday, another one, all with the different topics, and all also hosted by by a different organization, part of the whole Eurodelta. So that's very nice that we managed to really be present in all of the different regions of the Eurodelta area. And then after the forums, normally we would have the workshop week immediately afterwards, but this time we have that in 11 and 12 of May. So then we will really be hosting the workshop. Oh yeah, and I forgot to mention it. Actually, it's very important also to that people who host the subject also having organized an open office day. So that's also something you could participate in. And we already see in the city of The Hague, we see an open office day. So they're over there. Yes, you can wave. And in Amsterdam, I also saw it already on the screen. And also this year, quite extraordinary, we're part of the New York Water Week, which is focusing on youth and education. So we fit in very well. And the New York Water Week is actually organized in parallel with the United Nations Water Conference. And of course, they have a lot of focus on the Delta regions, particularly also because one of the co-hosts is the Netherlands this time. So this year we have 3 themes focused on circular delta, accessible delta, and fluid delta. So circular delta will be today, accessible delta tomorrow, and fluid delta the day after, in order to focus our attention. Maybe just for the ones who are joining for the first time, it's maybe good to know that this is already going on for quite some time now. So a third year in a row that we've organized this. Most of that, of course, was online, but we're moving also to cooperate more offline, and that's why also we've introduced these open office days and workshop places where we can really collaborate. But up to now, we've managed quite well in Zoom with quite a lot of people attending, very lively debate, and I'm also looking forward to that this time. And it's a large community that cooperates in these different editions. A lot of universities and universities of applied science who are contributing, students from these institutes are contributing. So hopefully we will grow further and further in this also this year going around. So what I said, not only online, but also more and more we will be able to meet in a live manner. Last year, actually, it was very nice that we also showcased the results of the Next Generation Podium in the New European Bauhaus Festival. So perhaps next year, I think when the festival's there again, we will try to achieve that as well again. So let's start. I already introduced Erik Pasveer, but we will also have Peter van Asje presenting, Marcus Stepler and Stefan Kampelman. I will introduce them consecutively when we'll hear their talks. And now I'll probably unshare the screen. Yes, so that I can see Erik. Maybe I can spotlight you so that you're more into view. And I'll add it to myself as well. Hi, Erik. Good to see you. Welcome. Very nice that you're here. You're head of strategy at the Department of Spatial Planning and Sustainability at the Municipality of Amsterdam. And you're also, by the way, board member of the board of Delta Metropolis Association. Good to mention always. And of course, I would say you're also a sure Eurodelta enthusiast from the beginning, basically. For first in the city of The Hague, now from Amsterdam. Well, if you keep on moving your job after a couple of years, every time maybe you can sort of cover the whole Eurodelta and by yourself sort of collaborate and make sure that all of these organizations start collaborating, because I think that's a very important element of the Eurodelta collaboration that we are sort of aiming for at the moment. Maybe just to set the stage a little bit. So why is this next generation podium so important for this Eurodelta collaboration? Can you say something about that?
Yes, well, first of all, it is by conviction. We truly feel that it is important to hear the voice of the next generation planners, scholars, professionals that will have to deal with the Eurodelta environment in the upcoming decades. So it's important to have them involved, and also because most of the problems that we're facing today are kind of a wicked problems that need out-of-the-box solutions, out-of-the-box ideas, and who would be better equipped to bring in these out-of-the-box approaches than this next generation. So we find that very inspiring, and I think the editions of Next Generation Podium of the last 2 years have evidently proven that this is really an inspiring and effective way of engaging power of thought and power of imagination that we really need in these times.
Yeah. So you say it's really helping us in thinking. The results from all of the work that everyone involved is doing. Do you have an example of that? Something that really inspired you from the last couple of editions?
Many of them. So I would be very unjust to just pick one because it's unfair towards the others. But
okay,
give you an example of what we're discussing today: circularity. In one of the former editions, there was an interesting idea that suddenly made it imaginable that we actually could create a market for circular industry on the level of scale of the Eurodelta. It was just an interesting game of thought with practical ideas, but also with imagination. So there was a map showing nodes of circular economy, circular industry working together. So suddenly it became imaginable that we could actually contemplate a market for circular industry with the size of the Eurodelta, which means the size of 50 million inhabitants. And to give you just one example, 50 million inhabitants means just roughly calculation, 25 million families. That means 25 million private cars that have to be converted from fossil fuel cars into electric vehicles. That's 25 million. So if we would have a very modest ambition to convert the whole stock of traditional cars, 25 million in the Eurodelta in the next 25 years, that would probably mean that we're way too late to meet the challenges of CO2 reduction. But suppose we do, that's 1 million cars per year that have to be one way or another put into this circular economy idea. And 1 million cars per year, that's a big industry. So suddenly when you start contemplating, also by the help of the students of last year, if you can imagine that we would work together and create this industry, massive industry with benefits of scale, then suddenly the perspective of circular economy would become much better. But maybe one more thing about it. So like any other city, probably in a bigger city in the area, Amsterdam has these goals. Like we want to be in 2050, that's only 27 years from now, we want to be fully climate neutral and fully circular. And if we want to do that, we need to be halfway in 2030. That's in 7 years. Yeah. If we look back at the past 7 years, we haven't made any progress at all. So we need out-of-the-box approaches to escape from the standstill situation, we need to accelerate dramatically. So it's essential to come up with ideas, and I think imagining a circular economy market of 50 million inhabitants could be one of these breakthrough strategies to come or get away from the standstill.
And what is the city of Amsterdam doing to accelerate?
Yes, so we have, first of all, we're worried about the lack of progress. So we have done a lot of research, a lot of talks, a lot of inspirational moments, a lot of policy, but it's too slow. So we want to accelerate, and we have, I think, 4 strategic ideas that we want to work on. One is chain dependency. So if you only look at circular economic activities in the city of Amsterdam, you neglect the fact that all these companies and industries are connected with one another, also outside the borders of Amsterdam. So you need to think about the whole chain of economic activity. So chain dependency is number 1. Then the second one is focus. If you want to accelerate, we need 2, 3, maybe 4 successful examples. So we're focusing on building and construction. We're focusing on consumer products. We're focusing on food and organic waste, and on clothing, on textile. And this is, we do focus on these segments of the market, because that's the third point. We want to create ecosystems, circular ecosystems, and that only works if you start working on 1 or 2 or 3 focus points. And last but not least, we're rethinking our spatial strategy as well, because the circular economy needs a different kind of an urban and regional layout, spatial layout, than a traditional economy. A linear economy simply has a different spatial footprint than circular economy. So we need different industrial areas, but also in a large scale, but also in the small scale, we need to adapt our housing stock to collect and separate waste.
Yeah, so indeed, now you come to it, the spatial dimension. It has been said that actually we will need much more space for the circular economy. Still more on top of all of the other spaces. Should it not be less? Should we not focus, if we are thinking about circular economy, really about this first tier of doing with less?
True. So if you really want to go for circularity, only the last stage is to reuse materials that are waste. The first step, you should prevent things becoming waste. So consuming less, that would be nice. And if we consume, and we can do that, at least make our buildings, our cars, our textile in a way that it can be easily reused, rather than converted into waste and then cycled up again. So if you principally think of our cities and regions as temporary storage of materials, the whole environment as a temporary storage of materials, then maybe you need less space. If you regard a building as a temporary storage of building materials in the form of a building, then you don't need extra space. You already have it. You just need to rethink and redesign the idea of a building. I think I'm watching a frozen image. Yeah. No, you're moving again.
I'm moving again. Yeah, sorry. Should be here again.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Good. Sorry about that. I switched network because of that glitch.
So that's okay. I was answering your question about the need of space. So one point of the spectrum is to prevent things to becoming waste is a way of saving space. And the other one is cooperating. if we cooperate on a regional scale, on the scale of a metropolis, or on the scale of a mega region, by specializing and upscaling our efforts, this could also mean that we're saving a lot of space. We need some specialization and focus, I think.
All right, thank you very much. Thanks for setting that stage with me for the talks that we will now have, and then I will include you in the talk afterwards, and maybe you can answer some direct questions. So thanks for now.
Thank you.
And I'll quickly move on, since the time is ticking away, to our first speaker, Peter van Asje, founding principal of the Bureau SLA at which is an Amsterdam-based office focused on the necessity for transitioning to a circular economy through design. So this is really the design perspective. Peter, you're also professor of architecture and circular thinking at the Academy of Architecture in Amsterdam, and connected to the Karlsruhe Institute of Technology. So also with that perspective. But please take the floor, and we'll listen to your contribution. Thanks.
So thank you, Paul. Thank you also, Erik, for setting the stage for me. I'm happy to be part of the next generation podium. I'm happy to be here. I will share my screen and go ahead. Can you see all this? I hope you can. Yeah, that's
yes.
Good. So I'll make sure that I can see you also a little bit. Yeah. So the lecture is called Heroic Attempts to Start from Scratch, and you will see why soon. Hold on, I did something wrong with sharing. I have to share my sound as well, so I will share again, because I have a few movies included in the presentation. So you might have to lower the volume of the movies, because I'm not sure how the sound will be adjusted with the microphone. We'll see. So as said, I'm main architect of Bureau SLA in Amsterdam and professor lector, as it's called, of the Academy of Architecture, and also involved in the Karlsruhe Institute of Technology. As an office, as an architect studio, we do a lot of beautiful and highly sustainable projects, which I will not show here, except for a few of them to enlighten the story that I will tell you about circular thinking. It is, as mentioned before by the previous speakers, also a way of how do we do things, instead of do I use the right material, or do I use the right background to recycled materials. It's also, do I use the right attitude? And the attitude is very much based on coming from a modernism background. So we all, since like 150 years, have been based in modernism. And modernism, one of the particular characteristics of modernism is that it believes in technology as the solution for everything. So if you have a problem, you can solve this with technology. And it's really interesting to see these actually, this is a really nice image made by Edward Burtynsky, and I asked him if I could use it, and he was happy to do so. Are the lithium mines in Chile that are the main ingredient of the circular economy of the batteries that we use for all our devices. And technology has changed. This image shows Amsterdam Central Station with a high-tech project in 1973-74. The high-tech project was to build a metro line from Central Station to the southeast of Amsterdam. And high-tech in those days meant that you bulldozer the medieval city, the old city, you erase it, you dig a hole. In the hole, you put this metro line, you put sand on top, and then you have your metro line. This was high-tech technology in 1973, and it only stopped because a few people, the so-called new Mark de Rellen, said you cannot bulldozer an entire city, which is actually in good shape, has homes, people live there, to make your technological progress. So this was 1973 progress, and it came with drawings and images like this. The the dream of many urban planners and of many cities was images like this, a car-based, mobility-based city, and all the old junk, the medieval junk, is just something to be wiped out. So you could start from a tabula rasa. You could start with an empty slate, because we know how the future will be, and history is just annoying in the light of what we will achieve. And this particular mentality has led to the fact that nowadays these are the numbers of Germany from 2020, that more than half of the waste of our society is waste made by demolishing building and infrastructure. So it's building and infrastructure waste, 55% in weight. So that's really interesting, because this is all waste that actually is designed by people like me, by architects. Architects design all these projects. So architects and civil engineers, for that matter, design for waste. In the end, it will all turn into waste, more than half of our society. And this leads to things that you all know: the increase of carbon dioxide and the increase of temperature, which you see here. So this is why it's called the Anthropocene, as you of course all know. But this is not a light matter. It means that the decisions that humans make have the main influence of the state of the well-being of our planet. So in fact, you could say we decide. And if you keep in mind that a new geological era is only called for like in once every 70,000 years, it means something if we call something the Anthropocene. It's a big statement, and it's a statement that every geologist, or most of them, agree upon. And you could argue, is this bad? Is this wrong, or is it good? You could also argue, well, it might be not a problem. I mean, there have been high levels of carbon dioxide in the world. There have been high temperatures, as you can see here. I mean, this is an 800,000 year scale. So the year zero is almost at the end of the scale, but there have been high temperatures and high levels of CO2. It just means that the Earth will be fine. The Earth will survive in some way. It will just be very difficult for human beings to live on this planet. So the human existence will become very, very, very complicated. To show you and this is interesting, because human beings for some reason have a particular position in all of this. Because birds, if you look at the bird, why don't we live as a bird? A bird can eat as much as it wants, it can have as many babies as it wants, it can shit as much as it wants. There's never like a neighbor bird that says you are not behaving sustainable, you are not doing circular, you are doing the wrong things. And bird can act as it wants. There is no problem at all. For human beings, this is not the case for some reason. And to take the bird, it is very hard to see. I mean, I was born in 1966. I was 4 years old when the wildlife factor was put on 1.0, and now it's 1.3 something. So that means that three-fourths of all wildlife has declined in my lifetime, in my existence, which is a shocking figure. I mean, 75% has gone of the wildlife. This is a very strong statement, and it was shown really interesting for me, also like a bit of a revelation in a lecture made by I will come to that. I forget now. He says wild mammals have this amount of existence on planet Earth. But if you look at the whole picture, this is only wildlife. This is human beings. Dirk Simons is the lecturer, of course. This is the amount of human beings as mammals. This is the amount of livestock, more than half, much more than half of mammals that humans need to preserve their existence. And on the lower right is a bit of the elephants that still walk on this planet. So you see that wildlife is only a minor part of the existence of planet Earth. And I'll show you a little movie fragment that to me summarizes this very simple. You all know the movie, so not. This is very loud for
I'd
you.
like to share a revelation that I've had during my time here. It came to me when I tried to classify your species. I realized that you're not actually mammals. Every mammal on this planet instinctively develops a natural equilibrium with the surrounding environment, but you humans do not. You move to an area and you multiply, and multiply until every natural resource is consumed. And the only way you can survive is to spread to another area. There is another organism on this planet that follows the same pattern. Do you know what it is? A virus. Human beings are a disease, a cancer of this planet. You are a plague.
Until every natural resource is consumed. And this is exactly what the Club of Rome stated already in 1972, 73, with the book. They had one scenario called the standard run scenario. And as you can see now, we are following this standard run scenario, which will inevitably lead, as they predicted or calculated, you could say, to the overshoot and collapse in 2070. So to turn the tide, as Pierik said, we have to reinvent ourselves. These are all models of doom, inevitably leading to the destruction of not the Earth, but the human existence on Earth. I mean, Earth maybe wouldn't care so much because so far human existence hasn't done so much. So we need to start rethinking, reinventing ourselves. And I'll show you two projects because I'm already running out of time. As the heroic attempts from scratch, to build from scratch, because that's what we have to do. We have to start all over again. The first project is about recycling plastic, and that's a project that we did together with a design agency over Traders Bay, and we started collecting plastic. This is already a few years ago, thinking we can change the world by doing something with this stuff that is waste and thrown away. And then we talked to a lot of, and we had this great idea. We will make building materials out of this. We will make serious, really useful, massive amounts of building materials that actually save the world, get rid of all the plastics and so on. And then so we talked to a lot of industries and asked them, we have this fantastic idea, we will use recycled plastic and so on. And they all said, your garbage is not going to enter my machines because they are very sensitive. So we did a few, I'll show you a very short 1-minute overview of how we did this. So this was our first result, and we loved it. We thought this is so much. So what you see here is just waste, is plastic bottles, butter bins, shampoo bottles, and so on. And even the plastic construction that you see here was made out of garbage. So it's all garbage except for the lamps, the wires, the screws, and the girl. So we started this company, Pretty Plastic, doing won a lot of awards, doing plastic recycling of upcycled waste. And it's really nice to see that it works. And we have this robot now. This is our 5th machine now doing mass production of 100% recycled building waste. So out of the 55%, at least a small portion is going into this factory, and therefore being one of the first circular building materials that look different than all the other ones. And right now we save 50,000 kilogram a year with this, and it's used on all kinds of projects, swimming pool in Eindhoven, in Tiel, and of course our biggest achievement so far was Elton John, that in front of a pretty plastic Paris show decor. So don't look at Elton John, look at the pretty plastic on the sides, 100% recycled material. Which led us to understand that actually there's no such thing as linear economy. We all talk about circular economy as if there is like a linear economy, but linear, like in the life of the bird, was never something that actually happens. And also building was for a long time, say not linear, but already circular, because it would last longer, you could reuse the materials. It's only in the recent years that we have messed up a little bit. So now we are reinventing the building practice with all this kind of circular diagrams. You probably, or most probably all know the diagram of the MacArthur Foundation, which all states, and there are many sorts of diagrams like this, we don't mine and dump, but there's some kind of keeping it in the system. But the natural state of being for all life and all matter has always been circular. Of course, stuff doesn't disappear. Linear economy is just looking at one part of the life cycle of all that is surrounding us. So, and it's mostly the part where somebody makes money. But if you look into the bigger picture, you will see that actually, if you start using and reusing and tapping in this life of materials, you enter a world where everything is a flow or dynamic, or you could even say a dance of material, of people, and of materials. So instead of this diagram, you have a circular economy that involves all of the life, and actually you can make money everywhere, as we show with the plastic factory. I will go through this project and very fast go to the last project that I want to show you, because I'm running out of time. I noticed this is a little pavilion that we made out of secondhand materials, but I want to go to this project that you might know. This is a pavilion, also a statement of how a circular economy, a circular building design economy could work, is a pavilion that we designed and made, which was completely borrowed. So we borrowed all the materials for 3 months of factories, of manufacturers, but also of people, of Eindhoven. In this case, it was for the Dutch Design Week a few years ago. So it meant if I borrow something from you, you want to have it back, but you want to have it back in one piece. So we could not screw, not glue, not saw, not drill, but we had to find alternative ways of assembling, of designing this pavilion, because every element, everything that we used had to be undamaged after 3 months. So this is what it looks like, and this we found to be a new phase, a new vocabulary, if you want, or a new design look for circular economy. We had to reinvent ways how to build it, and we had loads of help of Arab engineering offices all over Europe, actually, because the software that they were using was not made for this kind of thinking. And this is the pavilion, the same one that as you saw on the first image after the event. So this is afterwards. We demounted it, and it was here in one piece. And I'll show you one last movie of 2 minutes, and that's also the end of the presentation. And it shows how it was made. So I did not talk so much about which strategies we do actually use, but I thought it would be best for now to give you a brief overview of what a circular strategy could be and could look like and could do. So, but maybe afterwards in the discussion we can go deeper into specific strategies for this. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Peter. Very convincing, also with these small movies. Did everyone take it back? Actually, all the materials you borrowed.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So I think I haven't seen any direct questions for you in the chat for the moment. So indeed, I think we will move quickly on to our next speaker, and then perhaps it's possible for you to go into the conversation afterwards. So thanks for now. So our second speaker is really from the perspective of a company looking into how to use timber in constructions. Marcus Stepler, he's representing the Derricks Group, who are actually very much convinced by the statement of Erik Pasveer that actually the Eurodelta is maybe an interesting marketplace, because I also believe you have quite a lot of projects going on, not only in Germany, but also in the Netherlands. So please take the floor, Marcus, for your presentation.
Yes, thank you, Paul, and thank you also, Peter, for the good introduction into the topic. I hope, Paul, you see the screen now. Yes, great.
Yes, perfect.
Okay, great. So let me just tell you from where I'm speaking. So because our company, in fact, is also in the Eurodelta. I'm here in our production site in Niederkrüchten. It's very close to the Dutch and the Belgium border. And as you then will later see, that we have big also circular projects, especially in the Eurodelta, where from my point of view is the origin of circular economy in the building sector. So to give you an overview of projects, what we are doing and what we are producing this year, especially this and the last year, we are a timber construction company. This means we are producing timber parts and also building timber buildings out of this. And the special about this picture is that all these timber buildings are circular timber buildings. They are already built to be rebuilt after a time. They have methods of connecting so that the timber elements can be disconnected again after their lifetime. And they are all based in the Eurodelta. So as you can see, that this year we will be doing those two buildings. On the left side, we have a modular building on the left below side in Amsterdam. It's called Poppies. Which will start in the summer, and also in the summer we will start on the top left side with the big residential building, 15 stories in timber in Rotterdam. This project is called Saba, also very special and also made for rebuild. And we are still in Rotterdam in the middle, in the top middle. We are have a floating office here, a swimming office building, which is also connected to also which also can be disconnected after the lifetime. And we have also projects here in Germany. As you see that the spirit of circular economy came from the Netherlands, also now to Düsseldorf here on the right side, on the below. We have the Cradle. It's a very famous building now, which is already in construction here, which is also being or has the idea of being able to be remounted after its lifetime. And also we have buildings like this on the top on the right side, which is a hangar for an airship, also a very special project. But we have a whole timber construction which spans over a big field, as big as a soccer field, and is also just with the connection of wood and wood. There's no steel in it. It can also be rebuilt. So we have very good examples in our region here in Belgium, Netherlands, and the western part of Germany. And I see that here we have really the origin of this kind of thinking. And yeah, we as the Derex Group, since we have to do with many of these buildings and the circular spirit, what have we done 2 years ago? We thought about materials, and then we had the wood price, the timber price crisis, as many maybe remember. And then we thought about where will we source our material in 20, 30, 40, 50 years? And then we said, so why don't we take back our materials in total? And we made an analysis of what are the risks, what are the chances, and then we decided to implement a general take-back obligation. In every contract, in every offer, we write it black on white that we will take back, and we also will buy back the material from the building owner when he wants to disassemble his building. And yeah, we don't know when it's starting, if it's in 15 years, in 20 years, in 50 years, but we believe that especially in some asset classes, this take back will start in about 15 years, especially in special sectors where buildings are contemplated just for a time period. So what was the origin of this idea? It is already 7, 8 years ago with a project in Amsterdam. The project is called Circle without an E, because they avoided everything which is not needed. You understand circle also without the E. This was the main idea. And this building is built of standard materials. As you can see, that all the beams and columns are standardized and they are just plugged together, and it's being built for being remounted again. And in this building, we signed a contract, a project-wise contract, that we will take back all the material. Maybe some of you know those games like Jenga, where you put wood on wood on wood. And this is the same principle as you see here. When you see the ceiling and the slab here, you have those timber beams, all standardized, the same size, and they are just stacked up on each other, so it can really easily be rebuilt. And when we use standard material, we can build also many other buildings out of this. Peter, we saw an example quite similar of your temporary building before, and that makes it really interesting to work with, and for the designers also a good concept. This is a picture of the mounting process of the cradle in Düsseldorf, here in Germany. And what do I want to tell you with this picture? That not only standardization is important when you think about circular economy and taking back material, that also prefabrication is a key. You have standardization, you have digitalization, which I will come then later, but you also have prefabrication of elements, because the idea is everything which you can work on in the factory hall can also easily be disconnected, can be taken back, and we have less connections, less screws. This example here is just stacked together, as you see on the red thing here under the construction is just for transport. It's just plugged together like a Lego system. There's no screws in it, and it's just for the transport reason, and then the steel part will be left away, and then we just have the plug-in connection here. This is a picture quite similar, Peter, what you showed very shortly before. This is our idea of the circular economy in the timber construction sector. So what is the main idea? On the left side, you see the forest. The forest is nothing else than a biological circle. The trees are planted, they will grow several years, 50, 60, 70 years, then they will be harvested and planted again. This is the natural circle, the biological circle of biological material. What are we now doing on the right side? We are adding a technical circle. So we will take back the material. We think that 50 to 80% of the material can be reused. This is why this reuse is really thick. And the rest will go into the cascade, like recycling, downcycling also. But we want to reuse, in fact, 50 to 60% of all material. And then we have, as a resort, the sun as well as for the forest to grow, and as well as for our production, which is only be driven by renewable energies like photovoltaics. And now we have quite two circles which represent the unlimited availability of resources. If we take back new materials from a biological circle, and if we take used materials out of the technical circle, we can theoretically build up a unlimited resource. This is our idea of this. And then we have what I want to show you last, the importance of data. Data will be the main resource for the future, the main thing which we need from a building to know what is inside the building and to use material again in the future. As you can imagine, in the timber construction industry, we build really digital twins of the buildings because our CNC machines, very modern machines, have to have all the information of every detail in this beam or in this ceiling or in this wall. Like every screw is one-to-one inside this digital twin CAD model. And this is a really important resource for the future, so we know what our buildings are consisting of. And this is, for example, why we have a cooperation with Madaster. Maybe many of you from the Netherlands know this platform. We from Derricks will now load up every of our built buildings into the Madaster platform. So it will be in the cloud and available for the future for ourselves, for taking back, but even also for others. So this data will be available for everyone. So data is very important for the future. And yeah, at the end, this is my point. Thank you for your attention. This picture here shows a special small project. Why special? Because it's built from the fastest growing tree on Earth. It's also an invention from the Eurodelta. It's the Kiri tree. We just made the first tests of it. And now the Kiri tree should be planted on agricultural sites in the Eurodelta, especially in Limburg area and in Niederrhein in Germany. And this will be, yeah, maybe a future idea with a very fast growing biological cycle of this material. So I want to end with this, and I want to thank you for your attention. And yeah, thank you, Paul.
Thank you very much, Marcus. Very insightful. Also very clearly stated the three things that you find very important. Henk Bouwman has a direct question to you. Maybe you can answer that before sort of having the availability of this new fast-growing species. Is the production of the wood you use also sustainable?
This is a very important factor. You can also only use wood which is certified. For example, PEFC is a common certificate for this, and 90% of our wood come from certified German forests, 10% from certified forests, especially in Scandinavia, because they have a better visual quality. But it's important that you take regional wood and that you take certified wood, and all wood which we take wood is limited, because wood is limited by the growth, the annual growth of the forest. We cannot take more than the forest grows. So this is a very important factor, in fact.
Yeah. And Henk is also stating that actually the sort of monoculture that you get from sort of production forests can also be in itself a danger. Do you recognize this? Is this part of the same kind of looking at what kind of wood and where it's sourced from?
Yes, the forests are changing because they have to change because of the climate change. But the forests produce wood. This is a good thing, and wood is the only regrowing material. And using the wood and storing the CO2 and the carbon inside is the best thing we can do against the climate change. And But we can only use the wood which the forest produces per year. We cannot use more. In fact, there are years which are very negative for the forests, and then in the following 5 years we can take less wood out of the forest. This was only also a reason why the prices got up so high 2 years ago, because we had so many fires and things in the forest which were negative. But yeah, we are limited on what the forests are producing for us.
Yeah, I can give to you. Okay, thank you very much for now. You'll be joining in the conversation later on as well. But now the third and last speaker I would like to introduce is Stefan Kampelman. He is from the Université Libre de Bruxelles at the Faculty of Architecture, but also involved in quite a lot of his own initiatives and projects. And well, please come forward. I don't see you yet.
Can you hear me? Can you see me?
Yes, I can hear you, but I cannot see you yet. I'll try to find you.
I'm here. Like I shared my screen. Maybe
yes,
you can confirm if you see my screen.
Yes, that's all working fine. So you can go ahead.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, thanks for the previous speaker, Marcus. I think we have a good transition now, also with the question from Henk. So my story is really about where the wood comes from. So I will also talk about wood and its use in urban contexts. But our story is really about the origin of the wood. So indeed, the project I will present here is based on research I carried out for the university in Brussels. Basically, what we did is we mapped all the flows that go in and out of the city, something that's called urban metabolism. So you identify in the regional statistics all the materials and all the waste streams, with the objective of improving the metabolism of the city. And in our case, in Brussels, we noticed that there is a big inflow of wood into the system. So wood that is imported from Russia, from Canada, from Eastern Europe, especially. But at the same time, within the regional system of the Brussels metropolis, there's also a lot of wood that is produced, because there's this large peri-urban forest called the Forêt de Soigne, the Zonienwoud, which is one of the biggest peri-urban forests in Europe, actually. And it produces also a lot of wood. So this wood, until we started to dig deeper into the issue, was exported mainly to Asia. And at the same time, Brussels imported a lot of wood from far away. So from this insight, we started developing an initiative to close this loop. So we have a local supply, you have a local demand for raw material, and we closed this loop. So the forest is really special. It's a beech forest that is, as I said, one of the biggest in Europe, but it's also one of the greatest. So it's among the tallest beech trees in the world, actually. So they're very, very old and very high, and they produce a beech wood of an exceptional quality compared to other forests. To give those of you who are familiar with the Amsterdamse Bos, Nadir, about the scale of things, it's about 5 times the size of the Amsterdamse Bos. It's interestingly, it's a beech monoculture, and it has been planted. So I think for circular economy, I mean, materials are obviously very important, and you should know where your materials come from. And here we are actually at the end of a cycle that started at the end of the 18th century, where the government of Brussels at the time developed a strategy to produce materials for the city of Brussels, but for 2020, you know. So it's a 250-year project with the idea of producing really a local raw material. So very, I mean, it's a strategy with a very, you know, long-sighted anticipation of how the world would look like in 250 years. Today, this forest is really very beautiful. You call it a cathedral because these beech trees, they become really, really tall. And it's also recognized as a UNESCO heritage. But it is a monoculture because the idea back then was to be as efficient as possible and as productive as possible in the forest. So it was a monoculture. And today we're going away from this beech monoculture and towards a more diversified forest, also in the context of climate change. So even if the objective today is not anymore to extract wood as building material, today the objective is to have a strong ecosystem and a strong diversified forest. The forest does produce a lot of wood, so you get around 10,000 cubic meters per year, which is probably not not the scale of companies like Dirks who would maybe consume even more. But for us, the objective was to say, okay, we have this locally available raw material. What would be the best use, and what is the best adequation between the supply of material that we have locally and the demand that we have local as well. Like in many forests, most of the wood that is harvested today in Europe is exported to Asia, and the Zonian forest is no exception in this regard. So even if there's a big city just next to the forest, most of the wood goes to Asia, and that's obviously the same in a lot of forests in Germany, in France, etc. Basically, if you look at the net consumption and production of wood, all the continents in the world export to Asia, where really, the transformation of wood is concentrated. So when we started, we had to raise money and participate in public auctions. So the wood is auctioned to the highest bidder. And basically, our competitors were the Chinese buyers who wanted to export the wood via the port of Antwerp. And we wanted to keep the wood local. So we raised money through a crowdfunding campaign with mobilizing the population of Brussels to say, we need your money because we want to buy these trees that have been planted 250 years ago for the use in Brussels. So basically, our concept then was to set up a cooperative to make this happen. So raise the money, buy the wood, and control all the operations from standing trees to final products. So we do everything ourselves. We go with a lumberjack in the forest. We get the wood out of the forest, we mill it, we dry it, and then we transform it also into projects. And for this to be economically viable, you have to be really good at it. You have to offer good designs. You have to have good relationships with customers. You have to really be very attentive to what could be brought to the market. And we really see ourselves as finishing the job that started 250 years ago with the plantation of this forest, but obviously in a totally different context. In a modern metropolis that has very specific demands and in which you can buy wood products from all over the world very easily. So we have to be competitive with what's brought to the market here. I should also say that we are not the only company who does things like this. So urban wood is a bit of a movement in different places. We notably work together with Stadshout, who are active in different cities in the Netherlands, but also with companies like Bois Public, who are doing similar things with Ashwood in Montreal. Just to finish with a couple of examples of what we do. So we have this nice beech wood. What can you do with it? Our first kind of line of business was to make tables, because we are very big trees. We're very old trees, so it's old growth. So sometimes you have diameters of 2 meter, 2.50 meters. So it's very complicated to move to move this stuff because it's getting very heavy. So first line was having clients pick a big slab, and then we produce the table from it. Then we diversified a bit. So we also do the internal cladding here so it's basically interior architecture projects. with custom-made tables, but also internal cladding or chairs. Like you see here, we worked for a big project of a climbing hall here in Brussels. And very interestingly, wherever we go, the clients themselves, they really communicate about where the wood comes from. So it wasn't our idea to put like these little tags on the wood, but when we came to take pictures of the project, we noticed that the clients themselves, they printed like these little stickers that the wood comes from the local forest and put it like on every item. So that you know, they communicate to their customers that they didn't just buy wood because wood is nice, but they bought wood from a very specific forest with which people in Brussels have an emotional relationship. We also do staircases and you know, a bit of structural wood, but only internal, because beech wood is not adequate for use outside. But for example, beech staircase is a very traditional woodworking product, and it also kind of resonates with architects in Brussels who are very happy to use this material again in their projects. We also do flooring. So with beechwood, you can also do a parquet flooring. And here, in terms of circular economy, it's quite a challenge because flooring is normally glued. So it's difficult to get it back at the end of life. So we're experimenting with different solutions. Notably a company called Elastilon from the Netherlands, who offer a kind of reversible installation of flooring. It's a bit challenging to do this, but we hope we will also provide a reversible flooring in the future. We do public benches because every now and then we have a bit of oak, so then we can also design and build public benches, as these ones that were placed in Flanders. And finally, it's very, very nice to be in Brussels because there's a lot of creativity. There's a lot of very intelligent people around who can transform our material into something else. So here is a recently opened a concept store about the you know, the offer of Brussels that opened in Milan. And here the interior architects, they took our beech parquet, and they just use the CNC to create a grid in this pattern so that they can attach shelves to it. So we never thought about it before. We just said, okay, we do beech flooring because it's a traditional thing. And then our clients come back and say, hey, look, we did a very nice interior of a big shop in Milan with it. And then, you know, people really like it. And so we're here in Milan with our beechwood next to Stromae and Angèle, who are the other export stars of the Brussels economy. We also had the king over last November because it's really a Belgian thing. So the Zonian forest is quite well known in Belgium, and people are really attached to it because it has been there for such a long time, and because it's such a hurting feeling to just say, okay, afterwards the wood is going to Asia and we don't see it back. So the king came to our workshop and we had the opportunity to show him our last table designs back then. There's a lot of people who do a lot of things with our wood, but I can't go in there. I just encourage you maybe to follow us on Instagram because there's a lot of creativity and there's a lot of different things that you can do with wood, obviously. So here you get my social media handles, and I'm looking forward to your questions.
Thank you so much, Stefan. Very nice presentation to see with this kind of enthusiasm that builds into something that is really much bigger than what you thought of initially. Peter van Asje had to go. Actually, he just messaged me that he has to leave now for next presentation. but we will have, he is still there.
Yes,
But
so just
you're there
I just
to say
want to say
goodbye.
thank you. Yes, I just want to say thank you and goodbye. And if you want to contact me or ask anything, Alan Krita and Paul, of course, know my contact details, so you will be able to find me. Thank you so much, everybody. Ciao.
Thank you for being here and giving your presentation. And we will still have some 20 minutes to have some questions, topics raised. Please go ahead. I will get Erik in there as well at the spotlight. Here, there he is. So indeed, there are some hands raised or some questions in the chat.
You want to answer Hank's question about the demand?
Well, let's take that further. We now have Poria in the screen, so perhaps you can unmute and come forward with your question.
Hi, first of all, and thank you for super interesting presentation and insight to your projects, everyone. Like, so many inspiring topics came up and I have thousands of questions, but I would try to keep it simple. And the most intriguing one for me was that in both, like all three presentations, we kind of focused more on the material and construction aspect of circular approaches. One thing that was really interesting for me and missing is logistics and energy layer, and how you are dealing with this in your practice, because Marcus mentioned, for example, we have these contracts that we buy back or get back the materials. And then for me, it's like a really simple question. Where do we store them? Who has access to them? And then where do we place these storage zones? Then it becomes a critical question in a sense that if we want to build circular, in what zones and what area we can do. Maybe in a city is easier, but when we go to the countryside, then how people are using these materials, and then do they kind of create a big footprint because of their transportation or not, regarding the carbon emissions. And the second question is maybe more general, that I was thinking, what is the guarantee behind circular economy kind of having less, like being contributing to environmental sustainable goals, in a sense that if we are making it very desirable, then the supply, the demand will rise significantly, and then it's gonna go into a feedback loop that it's become something more profitable, and it's gonna grow, and the greed factor is gonna kind of diminish the whole idea behind the circular economy. Yeah, thank you.
All right. Two very big questions, also tying in all kinds of different elements out of these conversations that we've heard. So thank you very much for these questions. Maybe Marcus, you want to reflect first on this topic of the logistic and energy, and also the storage that is necessary.
So when we made this take-back obligation, we were also questioning us the same questions. Well, first of all, the thing is that actually at the moment, we don't have much reuse and take back. This is still not implemented, but this is also good because the buildings we are building, they should last 50, 100 or more years. But we were thinking about what comes to us in 15 or 20 years. And we have some clear rules in this take back obligations. And one rule is, for example, that the building owner has to communicate 12 months in advance that the material he will send back. And then our idea is that we use those 12 months for redesigning and for using it in other buildings. So we do not want to have a separate storage somewhere. We directly want to go maybe directly in our factory, reassemble it a bit, and then go back on the next construction site. At the moment, we don't see the necessity of big logistic. And then we asked also ourselves, how will it come into our factory? Do we have to provide for a special truck? But at the end, Poria, we do not know what will the logistics be in 15 or 20 years. So we just made a sign on it, and we said, let's just make now the take-back obligation and make it now possible that buildings are so constructed they can be reused again, and gives the idea also to the building owner, and then we will see in 20 years what will happen. No?
Yeah, indeed. But also, I guess if you have this kind of 12 months period and you have your one of the 3 points you mentioned, your digitalization in order, you know exactly what is it that you will get back, then you will also be able to flow it into a next project more easily. Anyone of the others want to react to the questions of Podium? Stefan?
Yeah. With this idea of if it works, it will increase the demand, and in the end, we're not smarter for the less. For us, it's really like a very important topic, because we are kind of married with our business model to a specific forest. Yeah. So if this forest runs out of wood, we are out of business. It doesn't run out of wood very quickly, because it's a very big forest compared to what we are doing. So we have another 50 years definitely of wood coming out of that forest. But it's very interesting to say from the start, our cooperative is limited with respect to the size of the market and the size of the raw materials that we can use. So when I talk to investors, it's a very different message from saying, yeah, we're going to grow forever. We're going to, if we run out of raw materials here, we go somewhere else. No, from the beginning, we are limited to a certain amount of scale of what we can do and the raw materials. And I think in the end, all companies should have this kind of philosophy, saying, okay, what is our limit, where we can go, and afterwards we have to find maybe also strategies of staying within that limit, and not always trying to be more and bigger and greater. I think that's a very important switch in mentality. And I totally agree with Marcus about the remarks about logistics. When we switched kind of this philosophy of having flooring that can be taken back in the future, you don't have to figure out all the logistics now, but just saying we will take it back changes everything from the beginning, because, for example, you're not gluing it. You don't know how exactly you're taking it back in 15 years, but by not gluing it, you make it possible that it's going to be taken back, or at least you make it much more likely and much less energy consuming, because you're adapting from the beginning processes that make this much cheaper and energy efficient.
Yeah. Well,
let me just add one point. Yes. That's right, Stefan. And one thing is about the truth about building more and more and more. I think one very important part should be that and this goes also to Henk and Puria, that it must be built less in the future. I think we should work with the existing buildings more. Also, if from Derrick's, we are living from new built buildings, but the key fact is, and the truth is, we must build less. And what we then build new and rebuild or add to buildings, this should be made of healthy and biological materials, or should be taken out of a technical circle. This is my personal opinion on this.
Yeah, very clear. Erik, you raise your hand.
Yes,
I was also wanting to ask you, because it also seems to me that this is also part of a legislative question, like how do you, what kind of rules do we need in order to have that kind of
absolutely. So first, I would like to say, and to underpin, we're in a crisis. And when you're in a crisis, you don't have the luxury of having all the answers. So the house that we live in is on fire, and we need to get in the fire brigade, because otherwise we won't have anything else. So to start with, for instance, timber constructions is not in itself an answer to everything, but at least is an answer on reducing the use of concrete. And concrete is a highly polluting material in itself. So we have an element on sustainability in Amsterdam, and she says to us, her main message is, accept that you will have to work on imperfect knowledge, but we don't have the luxury to wait until we have all the answers. So we have to take steps forward. And to come to the legislation part, maybe in the future there will be legislation that maybe not completely forbids, but make it very difficult to use, for instance, concrete as a building product. But you can't introduce that kind of legislation unless you have an alternative. And construction in wood presents its alternative. How imperfect it may turn out in the long run, we don't know that for sure. And the last thing I would like to say, we also need to have some optimism. So I think we can work it out. I believe we can. Also, this problem of storage and of dead forests and so on. These are important issues. We have to face them and we have to solve them. But we need some kind of optimism to start making the change towards a sustainable economy. We need this optimism. We need to trust that we really can.
Yeah. Well, yeah, indeed. And of course, I think you mentioned it in the beginning. We need also examples with the focus that you put on certain sectors or certain ideas. We need examples. And that for sure has really grown exponentially the last couple of years. And the examples, I think, Marcus, you can adhere to that. That is really amazing how this sort of shift to building in wood, also structurally building in wood, has taken off. Can you say something, Marcus, about that? Where did it come from? How did it suddenly become such a big thing? Or is that just me looking at nice
when I started,
it has already been there?
Yeah, when I started at Derricks, it's now 5 years ago. Formerly, I was working for a steel construction company, I must say. But 5-6 years ago, there was not yet this push of the ecological ideas of building with timber. They came more and more, and it's also because of the youth, the young people. They are pushing us. They are asking questions to their parents. What are you doing there? What are you building? And I think the biggest push is really now also the topic of the CO2 emissions, which will be calculated for the whole building over the life cycle. And now we see that it's so funny that we build high-rise buildings in the Netherlands. We have a 12-story building in Amsterdam. It's called Stories. Maybe you know it. Also very interesting. Very big buildings, but the Netherlands don't have a real forest industry themselves, and but they are much more driven by the idea of saving our planet, by the idea of lowering the temperature, and this is the main driver for all these ideas. And now it comes more and more from the Netherlands to Germany, and also Scandinavia is very highly addicted to timber buildings. But in Germany, we still have those concrete manifested in the because we have 100 years we have built with concrete, and now it's very difficult to get this out of the head. I'm often being asked, where does all the timber grow? But nobody asks, where does your concrete grow? This is so ridiculous sometimes. So yeah, we have to change our minds.
Yeah, but the funny thing is, of course, there was still quite an industry in timber in Germany, and that is from everyone involved. I hear that actually most of the projects in the Netherlands are only done by your company, but also by other German companies or Austrian companies, since we don't have this this kind of feeling anymore for how to build with wood.
But Paul, there are many German contractors who are doing study visits to the Netherlands now. So we are now learning from the Dutch people how to build more easy, more pragmatic, and how to build with timber. That's so funny. It makes so much fun to build in Belgium and the Netherlands.
Yes, well, that's a great shout out for the Eurodelta in that respect. Yeah, indeed. Henk also says Zaanstad was all timber, and we had this kind of big timber industries since much of it came through the different harbors in the Netherlands and was sort of produced there. But we lost that here. There was also a very technical question about wooden buildings and fire safety, especially since climate change also gives us warmer cities. Is there any issue there? Who knows something about that? Marcus again? Or
well, yes, I can shortly answer. Fire is mainly not the problem for timber buildings. It's more like sound insulation because wood is so light, and with fire we don't have a problem because wood protects itself by building up a charring layer, and it's very easily to be calculated. As I said, I was formerly working for a steel construction company 6 years ago. This is much more complicated to deal with fire. By steel you have always to protect it, to paint it, but with wood or with mass timber, I must say mass timber, it protects itself.
Yeah. Yeah, indeed. Most architects would know that. Indeed. So, are there any questions left? Topics left? Maybe between each other, we still have some issues we would like to point to. There's one more question. Oh, it's Erik again.
Sorry,
yes.
I was just curious. Question to Stefan and Marcus. So, if you could say one thing that you really would need to make your business more successful, where the Eurodelta could help, so what would that be? What are the obstacles for growth and of your ideas that we could do something about, that the students could think about when they're working on the level of the Eurodelta?
Good question, Erik. Stefan, maybe first.
Yeah, I must say, like I'm not familiar with the skill set of the students and the audience that we have, but I must say, I think sometimes in circular economy it's underestimated the importance of really business skills. I mean, a lot of main challenges that we have are related to risk management, finance, organizational management, that sort of thing. They're not necessarily related. I think the circular economy bit, we are quite strong, and it's quite straightforward. But you still have to run a business to make it work. And I think also with the plastic recycling factory of Peter, like I was immediately thinking, okay, like it can be done technically, but it's often economically afterwards difficult to scale things, to manage things, to get the finances together. And I think this also, especially in the younger generation now, that are very motivated to do stuff and to get things going. Sometimes these more conventional business management skills are very important to get things into the market.
Yes, indeed. Interesting answer. Also from all of three of you, your perspectives are actually all sort of trying to find a market model that works well on completely different skills, obviously, but very much in the same kind of light. Marcus, do you have any questions?
I think it's so important that we learn from each other, that every one of us has so good ideas, and we have maybe different, some points, different cultures, but also different ideas. And I think it's very important to see what the other is doing and to learn from it and to share the knowledge also inside our area here.
Yes. Thanks so much. Alan Krita, you raised your hand. Also good that you show your face here, since you're behind all of this, and in terms of organizing with your whole team all of these talks. But you maybe also have a direct question.
Yes. I have actually a direct question connected to what Erik was suggesting. So here the students are also joining and who will be working on this subject for the workshop. And in that workshop, we always ask the question of impact. So how these kind of innovations or smaller initiatives, local initiatives are impacting on a larger scale. is there any way to analyze that or assess that from your end, where what Marcus is doing or what Stefan is doing, but also maybe Eric can say something about the analysis part or the evaluation part from the city perspective, that how the students can learn from that. So yeah, that's my question.
Okay, maybe Eric, you want to start?
For us, it would be very helpful to start upscaling this idea. So we have, for instance, a very interesting and very successful entrepreneur in Amsterdam who is reusing wasted textile, and he's getting very big in this. And we need ideas to make this from one company to an ecosystem that reuses wasted textile. That, for instance, would be interesting. So how can we think across the borders of our city? Because Amsterdam, of course, proud of itself, it's only a small city in a big world.
Yeah, yeah. So I guess that is with all of these elements, the scaling up. Anyone else want to contribute still? We're running out of time a little bit, so perhaps we wrap up. Stefan, Marcus, some reflections still? No. Okay, good. Then it leaves me to thank you all, Stefan, Marcus, Eric, for joining in the conversation. Thank the audience, all of you who are here, also in the open office days in Amsterdam and The Hague. I see on the screen they're still there, and they will go and visit the offices directly from now. Alan Kriedem, can I give you the last word to introduce the topic of tomorrow, just with a couple of words, and so that everybody joins again tomorrow?
Yes. Thank you so much, Paul. Thank you everyone for joining today. This is the first session, and as Paul already indicated, we have 2 more sessions planned. One for tomorrow, we will be discussing about the sustainable mobility aspect of Eurodelta. It's the accessible delta that we will be talking about tomorrow. And day after tomorrow, we will be discussing about the connection between the movement of water and society, fluid delta. So please join us tomorrow and day after, and that's all. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you very much. Special thank to Marcus Stepler and Stefan Kappelman. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.